Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. What we have here is the RR1961 medium toothpick in the Bolster lock series by Ryder. Now this series has been around for a couple years now. When it first launched, it was a big splash, a lot of talk about it. Everyone was buying it and they really loved it and everything else. But I looked at it when it first came out and thought, when is a bolster lock not a bolster lock? Because to me, this is not a bolster lock. And that is really my only fault with this series, is that what they're calling a bolster lock isn't a bolster lock. But that has also prevented me from picking up the knife until now. I saw it at Smoky Mountain Knife Works, and it's like, man, I really do need to pick that up before it's gone forever, because I do want to have every medium toothpick in the Ryder lineup, just like I've got every medium or every large toothpick in the Ryder line. But so why am I saying this is not a bolster lock? Because as you can see, when you open the knife up, it locks, and if you see there, the bolster slides over and it locks the blade open. And so why am I saying it's not a bolster lock? Well, because what's really happening is, what you can see there is the liner is sliding over. There's a liner that is sliding across, and that is impeding the blade from closing. So it's truly actually a liner lock that has been cut into a bolster. And this is what I consider a true bolster lock. And this is a nice Italian switchblade. Pop the button, the blade is locked. You see that? It will not close. You can see how the pin from the blade is going through the little hole there, and it is not going to close. It is truly locked. And if you look, there's no discernible thing that is holding that blade closed, except where the pin is into that hole there. And it's actually the back spring here that is holding the blade in place. And the way you release it is you press down on the bolster and the blade can close. To me, that is a bolster lock. Now, I could be totally wrong. I mean, for all I know, maybe they have been doing this before. Maybe someone actually did come up with this idea quite a while back, and Ryder came back with the bolster lock. Maybe this is something that was traditionally done sometime in the past, but it still comes down to what you have is a liner lock that is cut into a bolster. And I think that's unnecessary. You don't need to do that, because as you can see here, this is a Camilla's fish knife, single blade fish knife. And you can see it has the old push here liner lock on here as well. So liner slides over, but the bolster is not cut into. And so I don't know why they bothered to do that with the bolster there. You don't really need to do something like that. If you wanted to, you could have the bump there into the bolster, and the liner could slide over and catch onto there without having the cut in the bolster. So I don't know why they didn't just leave the bolster solid and have a liner that you would just push over, meet it up with the bolster, and then close it. But for some reason, the designers decided to cut into a bolster, and you got that line there. So that was one of the issues I had with it. And obviously, there is the big R on there. I know a lot of people do like the big R. So I basically didn't pick this knife up for a very long time, simply for personal prejudices against the knife. I don't like the big R, and I didn't understand why they cut into the bolster. And that's why the only knife I have in the bolster lock series is the toothpick. But I gotta tell you, after getting it, there are several things I do really like about the knife. The lock, it's just a new Well, not necessarily a new concept. It's just a liner lock. It does work, and actually it works quite well. You know, there is no blade play against that lock, so the lock is in there pretty well. You can see that there's some pins holding it to the bolster. If you did not cut the bolster, you wouldn't need those pins. It would have just been able to slide straight over and match up into there, which isn't bad. I don't mind that. And I do kind of like that you have the bolster bumped up a little bit as opposed to the way you have this. That would have been nice to have the handle come up on the one side a little bit, because then you would have, when the blade is open, you would have a little more support on that liner lock, and it would not feel as, it wouldn't have as much of a hot spot in the when you're gripping it here. See how you grip over this? You do have a bit of a hot spot there. The hot spot is not as noticeable when you have the entire bolster involved. However, because of the cutout there, you feel it in your finger, especially if you're left-handed. Right-handed, yeah, you do feel it a little bit. So I don't know if I would have cut the bolster. That's just me personally. Otherwise, I mean, you can see there the fit and finish is typical of Rough Ryder knives. It's really good. You've got some of the most gorgeous red saw cut bone I've seen on a knife. I mean, this is really gorgeous. I just love the way that looks. And you have the diamond shield, the 25th anniversary Rough Ryder shield. That's really nice too. Nice nickel silver shield, nickel silver pins, nickel silver bolsters with the triple ring on the powder horn. All of that looks really great. The R, I can live without it, but I know a lot of people do like it. And I will have to tell you, if they came out with this knife again without the R, you know, if they came out with other knives using the bolster lock, especially if they had this saw cut bone, I would definitely pick it up. It is a really nice looking knife. Build wise, it's really good. One of the other issues I do have with it though is this is the older Rough Ryder red smooth bone toothpick, their original medium toothpicks. And well, let's open this one up, and you see there. Now let's open this one up. You got the half stop. This is just goes all the way around, no half stop. But what I notice on this is blade length. Can you see that? The blade length on the older toothpick comes in right under 3 1/4 inches with a cutting edge that is like 2 3/4 inches, a little more than 2 3/4 inches. The blade length on this one is under 3 inches, and the cutting edge 2 3/4 inches. So I'm not sure why they did that. Why did they make it shorter? This one has slightly longer cutting edge and a little more reach than that one does. I think the close length on both knives is about the same though. Yeah, you see here the close length on this knife comes in right at 4 inches. The close length on this one is also 4 inches. So close length on both knives is the same. However, the older medium toothpick has a little bit longer of a blade. Now, I know for some people that's also not a big deal either. But then when you compare it to the French tickler, well, this one comes in right at 4 1/8 inches. Yeah, about 4 1/8 inches long. And it's got a much, well, about the same length blade. Cutting edge. Yeah, this one is also a more substantial blade, as you can tell. And this has a lock back, a mid lock on the blade. So it locks from the back side. And you have that gorgeous brass bolster up front. and the short powder horn on the back. I'd love to see this knife in the red jig bone, or the red saw cut jig. That'd look really cool. Any case, I am happy to have the knife. It does work properly. It's just, I don't consider this a true bolster lock. I was expecting something when I heard they're coming out with a bolster lock. What I was expecting is that this blade would open and you would push down on the bolster or push up on the bolster like so. And that would break the lock on the back here, and it doesn't do that. That's really what got me. And it's like, oh, really? Okay, so basically it's just a liner lock. You know, a liner lock toothpick isn't a bad idea. Matter of fact, a lot of us have been asking for a Rough Ryder liner lock such as this, based off of the old Army Air Force survival knife. And for those who are not familiar with it, that's this knife here with the clevis up on the top here. You see the liner lock that comes across. It's got a full blade going on, locks with the liner lock, and you got the clevis up on top. So it's out of the way of the blade whenever you're using it. As a matter of fact, gives you a good place to purchase your finger whenever you're cutting and stuff. So this is what I would much rather see if they're going to put a liner lock into a toothpick. No reason to go and scar your bolster in order to do that, even if you're bumping up the bolster in order for it to meet up with the liner lock. Matter of fact, that is not a bad idea, but cutting the bolster out, I don't see that as necessary in today's day and age. In any case, that's my thoughts on the bolster lock and also the knife. The knife itself is great. The liner lock concept of it is okay. I don't understand why they ended up having to cut into the bolster unless it was just so that they could have a box that read bolster lock. I'm sorry, unless they wanted a box that read bolster lock. In any case, with that said, and my criticisms over with, really cool knife, and I know it's got a lot of fans out there. And there's quite a few other varieties of those. Grab them while you can, because I don't know if they'll ever come back. finally, one last thought about this. There's not a lot of locking toothpicks out there, especially medium toothpicks that lock. And so rather this be a bolster lock or a liner lock, it really doesn't matter. This is a really well-made locking medium toothpick. And the lock really holds up nice and tight, and it feels pretty comfortable in the hand. And so regardless of what I think about this being called a bolster lock, really doesn't matter. It's a really well-made knife, and the lock works really well. And that's really what most people are going to be concerned about. Let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with Tobias. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.